Hi, I'm Greg Dell at Dell Disability Lawyers, here with attorney Alexander Palamara, and we're going to discuss one of Alex's success stories against Lincoln Life Disability Insurance Company, also Lincoln Financial. There's a lot of subsidiaries, as we were talking about, many Lincoln entities, but it's all basically the same company. In these videos, Alex, we like to talk about what you were able to do for this particular client who found himself disabled and then came to you. And then provide some tips for people that they can take away from our experience in helping this client that will either help them with their appeal or help them to avoid a denial. So let's get into the background and facts of your case.
All right, she actually worked for as a chemical ops operator for SABIC, which is the Saudi Basic Industries Corporation, actually the fourth largest chemical building corporation in the world, one of the largest corporations in the world. She worked there for a number of years, loved her job, it was an interesting job. Unfortunately for her, she suffered from fibromyalgia, osteoarthritis, depression, anxiety, and it got to the point where she could just no longer work. She was in pain all day, and she continued to try to work and was in pain all day. At a certain point, she just said, I just can't do this anymore. And her employer provided her with coverage under this long-term disability insurance policy, and she applied on her own, and she got approved for benefits.
What was she doing for her employer?
Well, as a chemical ops operator,
Yeah.
a medium level job.
Okay.
A lot of lifting, a lot of carrying, obviously working with chemicals and whatnot. So it was not a sedentary job, not a light job, not an easy job. So the pain had a significant impact. Whether she had a sedentary job or this medium level job, I don't think really made too much of a difference. Because when you're dealing with pain, not only can you not sit there or work with your hands or work with your back all day, you're still also, it's affecting your concentration. So she had all these issues. And beyond her osteoarthritis, and she also had back issues as well. So she filed this claim for benefits on her own, and her claim got approved. And she thought everything's going to be fine, at least for the first 2 years under the own occupation standard. But lo and behold, after about 7 months of benefits, out of nowhere, she got denied benefits. And it was kind of a shock to her because when you're receiving long-term disability benefits, especially the first couple months, you might be applying for Social Security benefits, but typically Social Security benefits for most people take months, if not years, to get approved. So her only income was this Lincoln disability insurance policy. So out of nowhere, out of the blue, she gets a denial letter. So at that instant, not only did her benefits stop, but that's her income. Her entire income stopped. So it was a shock to her world.
And so what was the basis for their denial?
Basis for denial was, I guess, twofold in a sense. One, they said that we asked for updated records. They asked for updated records from 6 different doctors. She got them 5. I guess one doctor, she's still waiting on getting the reports from the doctor before she could submit it, but they gave her a really tight deadline and they denied her before she can get it into them. But she got 5 out of 6, so she actually had a lot of support in there. And the other reasoning was based on 2, they said that her claim, her medical records were referred to 2 doctors. Now what was interesting from the denial letter, they didn't use the term independent physician consultants. Oftentimes you'll see in these denial letters that they use these term independent consultants, meaning that they actually don't work for the insurance company. But in this denial letter, they were kind of bland. So when I got involved in the case, and I spoke with the potential, and I realized I have to help her because I realized she actually was disabled and needed help to get back on claim, the first thing I did was order a copy of the claim file. And why I wanted the claim file is because I wanted to find these reports by these reviewing doctors. And the first thing I noted, the reason why they didn't utilize the word independent and that they were kind of bland about it in the denial letters because these doctors were not independent at all. In fact, both of these doctors had one thing in common, the fact that they were both employees of Lincoln. And, Lincoln employee doctors, they have medical degrees, they're board certified. But the problem when they don't use independent doctors, even sometimes when they use independent doctors, but the problem with non-independent doctors that are employees of the insurance companies is that they have an inherent bias in favor of their employers because the employers are paying their paychecks,
Right.
and the employers are happy, especially disability insurance companies are super happy when they don't have to pay benefits because it's saving them thousands of dollars per month. So these employees are going to have a bias in favor of their company because they want to save their company money, right? So the first thing I noticed from these reviews that they were biased, inherently biased reviews. And the first doctor was an internal medicine / rheumatologist doctor who said there's no objective evidence to support a finding of fibromyalgia and the other conditions that she was suffering from, including her back conditions. The second doctor, it was a psychiatric doctor, basically said there was not enough evidence here because the client was treating so infrequently. I can't really disagree with that doctor's findings because she was treating pretty infrequently at the time. But what we did was we went ahead and gathered updated medical records to support our pending appeal, our upcoming appeal, And we found there was, in the claim file alone, there was a lot of objective evidence to prove this claim. There was MRIs, the results of MRIs of the lumbar spine, of the cervical spine. There's x-rays that showed her osteoarthritis. There was, just a lot of support from the treating providers as well. So I said to myself, I don't understand how these doctors, these biased doctors, I guess I can understand how these biased doctors, but I couldn't really understand the justification for denial of this claim. So we did an appeal.
And when you read all of that and you say you got 2 in-house doctors employed by Lincoln and they make a determination, they're reviewing, you said she had 6 doctors.
At least, yes.
Yeah. And 6 doctors had opinions that she had these medical conditions, she had restrictions, she had limitations. I don't get how an in-house doctor working for the company reviews it and basically says, yeah, I see these 5, 6 other doctors found all these things, but I don't think there's any evidence to support. So basically, isn't that the same thing as saying these 6 other doctors who have examined her multiple times don't really know what they're talking about, and the client's full of shit, and me, in-house insurance company doctor, I'm correct, send her back to work? How do they make the determination without even talking to her, examining her, or taking any other additional steps?
The treating doctors are almost at an unfair advantage in the sense that they not only get to, treat this person for a matter of months or years, they get to, lay eyes and hands upon these people, they get to evaluate them over a lengthy period of time. It's almost an unfair advantage. And these consulting doctors or these in-house doctors, it's ridiculous that they disagree with the findings of the treating doctors. And lo and behold, I'm sure there's treating doctors that could be biased in favor of their patients, but for the most part they're not, because these doctors are treating thousands of patients, and sometimes doctors hate taking the time to fill out these forms, the attending physician statements for their clients, and they're not treating the clients to prove a disability case, they're treating the client to get them better. So when they have to stop everything they're doing to fill out the forms, the doctors are typically upset by it. In this case alone, there was 2 doctors that are overwhelmingly supportive of this claim, so it's hard to justify these in-house employee doctors of Lincoln, how they can disagree with the findings of the treating providers. And also, this policy, we have to point out, the policy allows Lincoln not only to have, they can do these reviews, or independent reviews, but they can also have our client seen by a doctor of their choosing. So what they did here was almost next to nothing. They didn't even hire independent consultants to spend money, outside money to hire some independent consultants to do a review, which cost them a few $1,000s. They didn't even have and they didn't utilize the provisions of the policy allowing them to do an independent medical consultant's examination. They did next to nothing, only utilized their employees who they're paying anyways to perform a biased review to deny this claim. They literally did almost next to nothing to deny this claim, and it screwed over this lady because she was out without benefits for months on end.
But on top of that, and it's like a whole conspiracy calculated plan by Lincoln, and I'd hate to say that this is unusual because it's not an unusual case. This is the kind of the somewhat normal behavior, and not to single out Lincoln because we see this from many other carriers because this is what they do because they can. It doesn't mean they get away with it, as we know from the results in this case that you got a hold of someone else at the company and got it reversed. But it's not just those doctors. Then it was the claim rep that was handling the claim who is a living, breathing human being who looks at this and goes, wait a second, 6 doctors says she's disabled, 2 doctors who work for my company say that there's nothing wrong with her. Why am I believing the 2 doctors who work with me versus these other 6? Are these other doctors not real people, not credible? Did the claimant do something, that makes me lead to believe that she's not credible? And we have that in situations where someone says, I can't do this, this, and that, and then they have you on video or social media or something. But that wasn't even the case here. And then I don't understand how the human being at Lincoln just sends a letter cold turkey and cuts this woman off with no income whatsoever. And this was a big benefit because she was a high wage earner.
Correct.
Then she has a family, she has no income coming in. They don't even give you notice.
Right.
Just here's the letter. So it's sad. It's why we do what we do to help people to get paid benefits, but people need to know this happens. And you talked about there was a little bit of a lack of some medical treatment, at least on the psychiatric component. But we can touch on that in a minute. But after you got all this and you saw that this was the classic, what you call the BS denial, which you've become known for saying, what did you do to get it reversed?
Obviously, I got updated records from the treating provider. I got updated support from the treating providers. So they had, in the file, there was a lot of support over the course of the 7 months that she was on claim. They filled out the forms in the past, but I got additional forms completed, forms that I drafted that were more in line with the actual, issues of her disabilities. I had the doctors fill out updated forms that I wrote. I also submitted my client to physical functional testing. So I sent her to a functional capacity evaluation. So it's an independent physical therapist who runs her through some physical functional testing. And this independent physical therapist came to the conclusion that she could not do sedentary work, let alone medium level work at this time. So I put together this all on appeal, the support from the treating providers, updated medical records, the results of the functional capacity evaluation, and I proved to Lincoln, I essentially gave them no choice but to reinstate these benefits. And they did within 30 days. Actually, it was something like 27 days from the date we filed the appeal to the date we got the approval letter. They reinstated the claim. Our client's now on claim over the last month and a half or so. And we're going to do our best to keep her on claim until she's able to return to work, either her own occupation or until her policy expires. And the one big thing we have to worry about is there's a change in definition of disability after 24 months. So after 24 months of benefits, which is going to be about another, I guess, a year from now, we have to prove that she can't do any occupation. And I believe that the evidence that we have right now supports that, but I know it's still going to be a fight.
And what's the extent of unable to do any occupation?
Well, any occupation typically takes into account your training, education, and experience. It can't be the old Walmart greeter, or it can't be the old, she's a chemical operator. They can't say she can go be a surveillance system monitor. They utilize these kind of intro jobs or lower level jobs to say it's a job anyone can do. But they often try to use that argument, but it's not often true. So you have to realize that they have to take into account your training, education, and experience as well as your prior income, before they can deny your claim. So it gets a little bit more harder, and the insurance companies love to deny claims at the any occupation stage. But we're going to do our best to get her beyond that stage, to keep her on claim until she recovers to the point where her back gets better, and maybe she gets her fibromyalgia under control.
Well, congratulations on this victory. I'm sure the client is very happy, and it's great that you'll continue to represent her as we always do after we win appeals, because these things can happen at any time, and now we continue to guide the client as to say, get this treatment, get that treatment. We work on helping to complete the physician statements that are requested, the claimant statements, because winning the appeal is one step, and then the next step is protecting the benefits moving forward, which is essential because the companies are capable of anything at any time. So if you're someone out there who has a Lincoln Life, Lincoln Financial, Lincoln Liberty, long-term disability insurance policy, feel free to reach out to myself, Alex, any of our disability lawyers. No matter where you live in the country, we're available to assist you, and we always provide you with an initial free phone consultation. Hi, I'm Gregory Dell, the managing attorney of Dell Disability Lawyers, and I hope you find the video you just watched helpful. We put these videos out all of the time, and we'd love if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Beyond our videos on our YouTube channel, we also have lots of information available on our website at diattorney.com, and we encourage you to come to our website. The goal is that we want you to be educated about the disability insurance process, and when you get to our website, you'll see that we have information all about your specific disability insurance company, your occupation, and your medical condition. And we've designed our website such that you can easily search our website to find things that you may specifically be looking for. Now, at our website, we have thousands and thousands of pages of information, hundreds of videos that you can search, plus we're building a section of reviews of all the disability insurance companies, and we have the Ask Our Lawyer section where you can go ahead and ask us any questions that you may have. Now, we realize that you may not need us right now, but you may need us in the future to help you with your disability claim, and we think one of the best ways to keep in touch is by clicking the button below and subscribing to our channel. And most importantly, again, no matter where you live in the country, we're always available. Just go ahead and give us a call. We're happy to discuss your claim and let you know immediately if we can help you.